So to take the rear door panel off, I'm gonna have a time lapse going through that thing over here. I don't have a very good setup, but this is what you need: a flat blade for this piece right here. Let's see if you guys can focus. Pick it out, try not to mar it. I usually use like a pocket screwdriver or whatever, but that's at work. And what we're gonna do is pull this lever out a little bit and try to pick it out as gently as possible. Just a little push of it comes out. And I keep forgetting that this is a Torx for some reason, but I believe this is a T20. Let's try T25. Definitely not that. Let's try, what is this? T20. I'm pretty sure it's a T20. Come in here. Take this out. Don't be like me. Get the right tools. You take this off, and funny enough and simple enough, this door panel is ready to be taken off. What I like to do is just hold this part and pull. Since there's not another tool, not another bolt holding it, you're probably going to have this being unglued from your door panel, so be wary about that, or be aware of that. And then just give it a good pull, and then you should have it off. So sometimes, in this case, there's this black trim here that sticks onto it, and sometimes it doesn't. So let's see if we're lucky enough that it just stays onto it, which it did not. Let's see. And my entire door panel is coming apart. Great. It is an older car, so just bear with that. Connector, and then you want to reach, let's see if I can focus you guys. Reach down in here, put your hand under this, and push out your window switch through the back, or you can do it from the front. Doesn't really matter. Just remember that you also have a cable for your puddle light on the bottom. What I like to do is go in here from the bottom and just pop it off, and then pull the connector out. Therefore, it's just not hanging in there. And then you have free game on this. If you can't really reach it, just be careful on using a pocket screwdriver. I should have done this before, and just pop this out, not being very careful not to mar your surface. You pop this puppy out, unplug it from the back, and technically you should be fully disconnected from your door panel. Set this aside and put it right here, somewhere safe. Take a sip of Red Bull if you're into that. And now we have our lovely door handle. So this already came off the actual lock itself. So all we gotta do is pop this puppy out and we're good. So in my case, I was gonna do this video in my in-laws' house, just for the simple fact that I was having some lunch over there. In this case, just grab your correct door handle. In this case is this one. Transfer the little grommet over here over, if yours doesn't have it. In this case, mine doesn't. Let's do that. Pop this puppy out like so. Don't lose it. Put it over here. And quick note, The front, yes, we had, this is the one with the illuminated light interior. In the front, we did have to modify this. If you had a pre-facelift E39, you'll be able to actually reuse this and just, it's technically more plug and play than the back. I mean, than the regular front with the facelift. But in this case, we can just go back together, no problem. So what we want to do is grab this cable, or actually loop it first, pull it out, and then slide it in. And then we're perfectly in. You guys can see the hole, it's all lined up. So now comes the wiring. You guys might be asking, how do we do this? How do we don't? Or what's the best way to go about it? And I should definitely reseal. I think actually somebody did the padding here. How do we do that? So your window switch also is illuminated at night, and you have your brown and gray red. So these are the wires that we're going to be tapping into. And again, I like to tap into these wires the closest as possible to the actual door. Therefore, it can route over here. Of course, this is going to go down, so we're going to just tap over here in the back. All right. I don't have my wire strippers from work, but this will do. Just cut a little bit of the sheathing around like so. And once you feel like, or once you see some wires into it, you should be able to pull a little bit of it back using your nail, if you have any. In my case, I don't have a lot of a nail left. But sometimes it takes a little bit of cutting more into the sheathing of the cable or of the wire to be able to pull it back. Just like so. All we're doing is to just expose a little bit of the cable for it to, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's a little bit exposed, and we're gonna solder this directly to it. So do the same thing over here, and you can offset it, therefore it's not in the same length or whatnot, but I don't really mind. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. I try to keep it as uniform as possible, so we're just cutting it right here. Again, you're not trying to cut the entire wire, you're just trying to cut the sheathing around it. Wire strippers would make this job so much easier, but I'm using what I have. So if you guys are not in the automotive industry, you guys are just using or doing this as a modification to your car, you guys can see that it's doable with just basic tools. In this case, just a razor blade. Or if you had a pair of side cutters and you're good with them, you should be able to peel back the sheathing, no problem. In this case, I might have messed up pretty badly. I actually pulled a little bit more than I wanted to. So I will probably have to just cut the wire and pull back the sheathing on this one and also on this side to actually make it work. So let me do that. I'll be right back and show you how we're gonna wire this up. So I messed up because I pulled out a little bit more of the sheathing than I was supposed to. Therefore, you know, I had to pull this wire back completely. Not a biggie. What I did is that I grabbed the wire that we were using for the front. Focus. Well, it's the same wire that we were using for the front here. And what we're gonna do is, since this has to go back to where its original position was, which is over here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna solder this together in conjunction with this wire. So what I'm gonna do here is twist these together, therefore they don't come out. And then with that twisted, I can actually have this go through over here and twist these two. So all of it is actually together. Let me show you guys better how this looks. Hopefully you guys can see it's twisted together. And now what I'm probably going to do is twist this over like so. And if everything is correct, you can, crap. If everything was correct, you can pull back on it and it should be pretty tight. Like that. And then don't forget your heat shrink. It should go over it, no problem, like so. And then we can wire this to the other side where our lovely handle is at. So let's get into soldering. This cable together. So I'm gonna have to go grab my soldering iron. No gloves this time. It's not that much of a dirty job. So Milwaukee 3/8, robbing the battery off of that, grabbing my soldering gun. Let's preheat this. I have 3 bars of battery left. Should be enough to do this side and the other side, and then we can work on the front. So while this heats up, I'm gonna grab a piece of solder from my, what is it, 2 pounds? I don't remember how much it was, but 2 pounds of solder that I bought. Pull some of it out like so. You should be able to break it by your hand and start soldering. How this process goes is technically, let's see if my lovely zoom is going to help me with this one today. I like to start by melting some on top of the actual soldering iron like so, and then putting it against the wire like that, and then just start, oh, you guys can't see, like that, and then start feeding it over. All right, so once it's fed, let me show you guys, because I have to zoom out. It's pretty difficult. You guys would have a decent size solder like so. You guys can slide over your heat shrink, therefore everything is protected. We will sort this out later. And then comes our ground wire, which usually is just brown. Do the same exact thing as we did before, which is cut the wire, or cut the sheathing of the wire enough. My camera overheated. I'm using my phone and I'm outside. Clearly there's a lot of sun, so I couldn't videotape the last part, but we're back. This thing cooled off a little bit. Hopefully it doesn't do it again. We previously left off on how this was soldered. We're gonna electrical tape that, you know, to a sequence like so, since it has to sit over here. And now we're to the part in where we are going to strip these wires for our lights itself. Same way. So we're just gonna fast forward to, you know, soldering off of this part, okay? So doing this off camera, you guys already saw how I did these over here. So same exact process, just to the actual handle and the light. Back to soldering. I unplugged the actual light from the housing of the headlight of the door handle. to make it a little bit easier for me to maneuver the cables and wires or whatnot. So we'll just do that the way it is as we see here. So for soldering, same thing, same concept. Nothing different about this than what we've been doing before. We want to heat up a little bit of the solder, or heat up, wait till your soldering iron or soldering gun is heated, and then go at it. Done. That's a solid connection. Now we're gonna do the ground wire. All right, both have solid connections. We can put our heat shrink around it. Make sure that it's not hot, therefore it doesn't shrink beforehand. Slide this over as much as you think it's in the middle. Same as for this one. Slide it over, and then we're just going to heat this up as good as possible. All right, now that I found my lighter, we're just going to apply some heat evenly. Let me block the wind. I'm not even showing you guys anything. Amazing. So this specific heat shrink that I use, or that I like to use, has a little bit of a, I don't know if you guys can see that, but a little bit of like an insulation inside of it. Therefore it melts off and actually grabs the wire perfectly fine. So if the wind allows, I'm gonna keep soldering this until that goo comes out, and we should be good to go. So now what you guys will have is a complete kit of this that works just fine. Let's put this solder back, or heat shrink back, to where it's supposed to be at, which is right over here. And then organize our cables accordingly, like so. Yep, that should do it. And then heat shrink wrap this as well, if the lovely wind allows me to. Which it's not cooperating at all. And the reason why I'm not using my torch, as you guys seen before, is because it ran out. All right, good enough. So now what's left to do is tape this up with electrical tape, make it all look nice and factory, and finally plug this in like so. So you have a decent amount of length on wire here. This is still reaching to the bottom of where this was, which is your insulation for your window switch. And then we can wrap this up, put Tessa tape if you want. All right, so now that we have our electrical tape, I'm just going to grab a good piece of it, probably like really long, and start taping this up as it was meant to be. If it doesn't catch around my finger, you can do one of these. And again, you want to wrap this as tight as possible. I think at this point it's better for me to show you handheld instead of using this chest neck mount thing. I have a time lapse going there. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but I did end up wrapping this around Tessa tape. It looks pretty factory. If you didn't know how the E39 wiring looks, so all is good here. It's just for testing purposes. We're gonna put this back together, since we already know that there's only a blue and red here and a ground, so there's no problems on that. So let me put the door panel back together, and I should meet you to show you how this looks. All right, so everything is back together. I did mention that this, at some later time, I'm going to re-glue it back on. I just haven't bought the two-part epoxy for this, but everything is on. Light in the bottom is also back on. We can see that our light is there, and unfortunately right now it's too bright still for me to show you guys. It's a pretty dim light, to be honest, but I'm gonna keep going and finish that other side and then the front as well. So